Hello everybody, this is Froito Bobbin here, and welcome to a video that I never thought I would make, and yet here I am making due to a recent situation that happened over on Twitter. Now, I don't talk about Twitter very much on this YouTube channel usually because there really isn't anything to talk about. I mean, to be fair, my Twitter doesn't really have that many connections to my YouTube channel. Like, the only connection is the fact that I own that, I own a Twitter account, and I also have a YouTube channel. And occasionally I do tweet out, YouTube videos on my Twitter, but otherwise, like, unless you want to hear my takes and stuff about auto racing and a bunch of other things, there's really not much point in following my Twitter account, to be honest. Like, at this point, a lot of the updates that I give out are on the community tab, so you never really miss anything. So at this point, my Twitter account is a little bit redundant, unless you like hearing my opinions about things. Speaking of opinions, oddly enough, we're actually going to be getting into why having an opinion on Twitter is actually not the way to go, as I'll say in this video. So as I probably mentioned earlier, I'm making this video because of something that recently happened on Twitter, but this video, I'm really going to be going over Twitter in general and why it kind of sucks, actually. So I guess I'll start by getting into the reason of why I joined Twitter. So I have been on Twitter for 3 years. I joined in June 2017. And really the only reason why I joined it was because a number of my favorite content creators on YouTube had Twitter accounts, and I decided, well, since so many of my favorite creators on Twitter, I thought that I would join in with the party and interact with those who also have Twitter accounts, so I can just see what's going on and all that stuff, because they weren't really updating stuff that much on YouTube. So I was like, well, there's so many people on Twitter, might as well join it. And after a little while, I actually came to really like Twitter, for the people and the content, and for the longest time, I didn't really mind having a Twitter account. In fact, I liked it because, I could see all this cool stuff. I could see instant updates from NASCAR. I could see instant updates from all of my favorite creators. And it was just nice to have it as a news source, in a way, because, YouTube isn't really that good for delivering news, and neither is Facebook. So I always liked Twitter because it was the best website for getting my news. Because, of course, I don't watch the news because I don't know who does in 2020. I feel like what's the point of watching the news on TV when you can just, search it up on the internet, and maybe while the internet might not always be correct, it's there, so it's like, why not? However, as good of a website as Twitter is for using it as a news source, the people on the website itself is where the problem sort of begins. And I'm not really talking too much about the creators and sort of the more mainstream people on Twitter, although they can be problematic sometimes. I'm talking about the people on there that are basically, my size as far as a following. People who don't have that much of a following, and, people like me who just join the website to follow the other creators. Although some of the people like to join the website, to share their opinions and stuff, and that's where the problem begins. So in my years of being on Twitter, there have been a number of times where, where I've been involved in an argument with someone else or a group of people. Maybe it was 5 people, maybe it was a little bit more than that. Would try and argue with these people and say, and tell them why they're wrong, and tell them why my opinion is correct and why their opinion is wrong, and that this and that. Really just telling them that their opinion is wrong and my opinion is right. Of course, you might say that there's no right or wrong opinion, but sometimes I feel the need to tell the other person why I disagree and argue with them and say why I think this way and why them thinking that way is a little bit wrong, and you know how it is. However, usually when I get into an argument like that, I don't usually mind it. Like, if the other person has a different opinion than me, then fine, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna force someone to share the same opinion as me. Like, if they want to have a different opinion than me, then fine. I don't really care that much, but sometimes I feel that need to argue and tell them why I think that they might be wrong. And I'm not really the only one to get into this argument. I've seen people tweet and complain and say, how much Twitter isn't a good website because of the people on there. Some people come out and say, well, yeah, this website sucks because, it's like I try to get into an argument with these people, but they just keep ignoring me and stuff like that. I used to look at those people and, kind of laugh. Like, if you're saying that social media sucks because of that, then what are you doing? Now I kind of sympathize with those people for reasons I'll get into just a little bit later in the video. And actually, in response to what happened on Twitter recently, I I actually watched a few videos that actually agree with me. One of which is called "Why Twitter is Terrible for Discussion," and the video is about exactly what Citizen and really goes into more detail about, well, why it's terrible for discussion. It says in the title, and it describes exactly what the title is saying. Another video is titled "Arguing on Twitter is Useless," and the title is exactly what it says in the tin. The video again describes, well, what the title is saying and what I'm saying. And then we have one more video called "The Quest for the Blue Checkmark," and this video goes more in depth in Twitter, as obviously the quest for the blue checkmark, but it does touch on a bit, why Twitter is a bit of a garbage website, and I agree. I know if there was once a point in time where I disagreed, thought Twitter wasn't so bad for discussion. That opinion's changed now for a reason I'll get into later. So if you want to know more about what I'm talking about, I would actually suggest watching those 3 videos, and videos to those will be linked in the description down below. They do contain a bit of mature content, but I'll put the mature content warning on, the videos that contain the mature content. So basically what I'm saying of this is that, Twitter, it's not that good for discussion. And only enough, I really should have known this the first time, because I feel like one of the best examples of me getting into a Twitter argument and not being able to change anybody's mind and stuff. Only enough, I made a video of this best example called "Wild in the Western and the Sheep." This video is really just a 40-minute long video of responding to a bunch of people on Twitter who all share the same opinion, and I made this video in response to all those comments to try to change the minds of those people. That still backfired, and you can watch the video yourself if you want to completely understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going into super detail because the video is there and you can watch it. It is 40 minutes long, but oddly enough, some mad lad did actually leave timestamps in the comment section below, so you can just skip to whatever you want to, so you don't have to watch the whole entire thing. But in simple terms, the video really highlights a classic example of a Twitter argument. And obviously, that video I feel like has become bad because I myself made a bunch of arguments and eventually apologized. And oddly enough, I was actually thinking about taking that video down from the main channel and re-uploading it to the Rubbish Bin channel, but oddly enough, even to this day, that video still gets views and comments and stuff, so I think I'm just gonna lay it up. I mean, the video has nearly 700 views after being uploaded for a year, and that's, I mean, I'm not gonna complain about it, so, and that honestly gives me enough reason to not delete the video, especially the comments on that video. Like, sure, the view count on the video is small compared to the rest of the views I have on this channel, but I feel like especially the comments is the reason why I want to keep that video up, because if I re-upload the video to the Rubbish Bin channel, those comments will be deleted, and no, I want to keep those comments because I feel like they were interesting and stuff. So that's the reason why I decided not to delete the video and re-upload and keep it on my main channel, despite the fact the video itself is rubbish. But as I said, the video it's a classic example of what a Twitter argument really is. So now we've gone into why Twitter is actually pretty bad for getting into arguments, and now we're going to get into an even better example of what happens when you get into a Twitter argument, and really why I'm making this video. So recently on Twitter, I said something that I probably really should not have said. I'm not going to mention the topic because it's a really not a child-friendly one, but I guess to hint at a word that the topics is sort of linked to. Let's say the word in question begins with P and ends with file. I think you guys will know which word I'm talking about, but if you don't, then ask your parents or someone, because basically what happened is that I wrote a tweet saying that, I don't think that it should be frowned upon as much as it gets frowned upon, and this is after doing not a lot of research, but in some of the research that I did in regards to the topic, I felt it made it sound like it wasn't such a bad thing. But I mean, there were some links to it that could have made it into a bad thing, but I didn't really believe it. So I just so I pretty much went on Twitter and say, it's not as bad as some people make it out to be. It's not that bad, but yeah. Oh, how I would get proven wrong by so many people on the site. What basically followed is basically what you will eventually see what happened in the Wild West and the Sheep video, but much worse, let's just say. Because what I said to trigger the events of the Wild West and, in the Sheep video, what I said was a bad enough take, but what I said happened to be even worse, and that's why Twitter just got really upset with me and were like, how dare you defend such a topic? You are a very evil man for saying such a thing. And it's like, I mean, I know, what I said, wasn't smart at all, but it's just amazing to me how if you dare defend such a topic, then most of the people of Twitter will come out and try to cancel you and say that you should game in yourself and all that stuff. It's like you're not allowed to be morally incorrect. It's probably worth saying. Like, if you dare say something that is morally incorrect, then you just deserve. People would just say that you should deactivate, and they're gonna sell this and that, and it's just like there's just no winning with Twitter. It's either you say the things that people want you to say, and you believe the things that the people want you to believe. Otherwise, you shouldn't be on the internet. That's basically how people want you to be on the internet, and it's like, I feel like the beauty of the internet is that it should be a place where we should be able to share our opinions just because we want to share our opinions, but then there's the people who will shut you down for having a differing opinion. And I guess one thing that's worth mentioning is that in the midst of all of the people that were telling me, why I'm wrong and why I'm this bad person for having a differing opinion on such a topic, in the midst of all that, someone left a comment that I felt was, really good, and a comment that I strongly agree with. I feel like people who might have a differing opinion on such a topic, we shouldn't try to game end them or try to get them to game end themselves or try to get them to deactivate or just destroy them all stuff. We shouldn't be doing all that. What we should be doing is educating them or treating them and letting them know, maybe why they might be wrong or something like that. There's a mature way to go about things. You don't need to cancel a person just because they may have a differing opinion on such a strong topic. We should instead educate them on why they might be wrong. Tell them, hey, what you're saying isn't exactly right, and you should really do some more research before you say something like this. People on Twitter, and perhaps in general, just like to simplify things to the simplest denominator rather than expand on it and really go into super detail into why it's bad. Because here's the thing, especially a person like me, if you come up to me and tell me why I'm wrong for having a differing opinion, I'm not gonna buy it unless you go into super detail. Like, if you just come up to me and say, hey, your opinion is stupid, that doesn't help. I don't understand why you're saying that. So it's like, it's like, how can I take you seriously and take your word for it if you're not going into super detail about, some of these topics I don't really understand straight off the bat. So that's why you need to go into super detail. I would rather that you would respond to me saying, your opinion is wrong because X, Y, and Z. At least then you're giving me reasoning as to why it's bad, and then maybe I can look at you and say, okay, well, I see where you're coming from now, and I might even go as far as to ask you to expand on what you're already saying. And the thing is that if you don't expand on what you're saying, you've already lost. So at that point, you've lost me. So there's no point. At that point, you're just hammering in the same thing over and over again and just not getting anywhere. So I guess another part of Twitter that I should really mention is the snowflake part of Twitter. Because, not only do you have people who will try to tell you why you're wrong and stuff, then there are the people who just don't even want to say anything. Like some people, they see your comment and they see how stupid it may be, or either that or they don't see the fact of the comment, so they just go ahead and block you. These people are the prime example of a snowflake. Snowflake is the best way to describe a person who sees your comment and just can't take how factually correct it is, and they can't even make a good argument, so then they just go ahead and they just block you and stuff. That's just the easiest way and most pathetic way to get out of an argument, because you can't even make up a legitimate point or a legitimate good counter argument, so it's like, what's the point? And that's kind of why I see why some people, when they're responding to a comment or they're responding to the comment saying why the person is wrong, they always go for the easiest target. They always go after someone who has just a really weak point that can easily be absolutely destroyed in the best counter argument that there is. They don't really go after a comment that might actually have a decent point, because the person might have a pretty weak point, but then you can come back with with another point. Another person might fire back with another point. But I mean, it's a weak point, and it's just that just winds up in discussion that doesn't really go anywhere, because you try to come up with a really good point, but you kind of can't. So at that point, your argument just goes with the other person, just goes absolutely nowhere. And I feel like a pair of people who have sort of this mindset is only enough a pair of people that I mentioned on this channel. Remember, I guess to get into the first person, remember Jay, who I told the story of in the video that I made called The Biggest Snowflake of a Racing Building Ever? I feel like Jay, the way that I portrayed him in that video, is just the best example of someone who you can get into an argument with, and yet you can't really change their mind, and it just winds up in an argument that just goes absolutely nowhere. Like, I think I tried too hard to try to get him to see some sense, and just never succeeded, as I say in that video that I made about it. And I guess another thing to point out about Jay is, not only is he a snowflake, he's also a massive hypocrite, because get this, when I tried to expose Jay for how much of a snowflake that he was on the internet, he would come at me and say, you need to delete your tweets because you cannot spread word about, you cannot say anything bad about my league because I can't take criticism, and you cannot say this about my league and stuff. So it's like, it's so funny. Get this, he doesn't like it when I badmouth him on the internet, as I also mentioned in the videos that I made about him. But he is totally fine with going on Twitter and exposing me. So it's like, I can't expose him for how much of a moron he is, and yet he will go on and expose me for what I say. If that isn't hypocrisy, I don't know what is. And for that reason, I'm glad that I didn't go in and delete the video, titled The Biggest Snowflake of Racing Ever. And that's why I'm never going to be deleting that video now, because it's just too good, man. It's too good. And oddly enough, another person who I feel fits into this criteria happens to be Domtron. Yes, the guy who I featured on this channel in various things for a whole 3 years. I think one of the reasons why I decided to, keep being his friend for the longest time was because, while there was the occasion where he would come across as a stupid person, I feel like I would stay in his friendship circle because of the times that, the fun times that we had together when, when he wasn't being stupid and we were actually having a good conversation and doing things that were fun and all that stuff. And after the first time that he left Top Gear for a month, I decided, I wanted to try to get him back, because after a while I felt bad and realized to myself, what I did I feel was wrong, and I wanted to make amends, and that was the reason why I tried to get him back in Top Gear the first time, and eventually succeeded. So, but one of the other reasons why I decided to bring him back in was because I felt like it would hit the reset button. All those years that we just argued with each other time and time again over something really stupid, I feel like that would finally come to an end, and we would be better friends from there on out. Only enough, that's not what happened, and we didn't even hit the reset button. In fact, I brought him back in and we were right back to where we were. And only enough, 2020, it got worse. Like, practically down to the second that 2020 started was, he was getting noticeably stupid. Like, Domtron would just come out and say the stupidest thing ever. And I would try an argument with him for the longest time, and, for the longest time he didn't really see what I was saying. It wasn't until after a while that he really just started to, see what I was saying, and even then I still didn't like some of his takes and stuff, and it was like, what's the point? And then there was the incident that, where we got a call up on Jay. I tried it time and time again to tell Domtron that what he was doing is wrong, and every single time he just would not listen. I would try to tell him, hey, this isn't good, what you're doing is, it's causing a strain in our relationship, and it's just not good, and, and he would always fall back and say, oh, well, you're wrong, you're the one who makes my life miserable, and what I'm doing is actually utterly, is actually not wrong at all. And it's like, every time I try to tell him that what he was doing was wrong, he would always fire back with, it's not actually as bad as you think. Yeah, so then in my last-ditch effort to try to get him to see sense, that was just really the end of it. So at that point I was like, why even bother, and I haven't even bothered to react, get back to him since, because, as I said earlier, the reason why I'm trying to get him back the first time that I left was because I felt like I would hit the reset button, but then after a while I was realized, no, this is just how it went before. It's just the same song and dance every single time. And also I'm glad that I haven't gone back to it. Like after that stupid comment that I pointed out in the other video, after that it's like, what's the point? If you guys want to see the full story of what happened with the two people that I'm talking about, you can find out in the video titled "The Biggest Snowflake of a Racing Going Ever" and the video titled "What Came of the Biggest Snowflake of a Racing Going Ever." And I don't know, one other thing that is probably worth mentioning is that I actually discovered Jay through Twitter. Go figure. Someone on Twitter just so happens to be a complete another idiot. So it's like, why am I not surprised at this point? And I don't have to mention Domtron again. I like how even after his departure from Top Gear, he's still on there just saying the stupidest things ever. Like he's one to come in and fire back and be like, oh well, I guess the entire NASCAR community is Snowflake. Which oddly enough isn't entirely true, because get this, in the midst of the arguing with all of the people, or with a number of the people in the NASCAR Twitter community, I gained 2 followers. Yeah, there were 2 people who saw enough sense in what I was saying and followed me. Of all of the people who just want to disagree with me and see how bad of a person that I am, there are a couple people out there left that actually see sense in what I'm saying, and I want to thank those people who, see sense and, don't agree with trying to game in someone else on the internet just because they might have a differing opinion or might be morally incorrect, because maybe these people that are morally correct, they don't really understand what they're saying. So, now, I guess one more mention of Jay. I already mentioned that he's a massive hypocrite, but it's just amazing to me how many people, he was linking to, my YouTube channel and my Twitter, my other Twitter account and stuff like that. It's just so rich how he'll go out of his way, to show these people my YouTube account, which is family friendly, by the way, and I would never talk about such a thing on my YouTube channel because it's family friendly. I don't even try to talk about that much on my Twitter account. But the only reason why I did was because of another comment that I left, which happened to have a poor choice of words. So I was like, so I came out and addressed, this is exactly what I'm thinking, and like, it was basically supposed to be a clarification thing, and yet it got even more backlash. So that's just absolutely amazing, isn't it? And not only that, but he also links my alternate Twitter account, which I don't actually use anymore. In fact, oddly enough, that was the account that I used to get the message across to Jay in the first place, as you'll see in my biggest racing league, in the biggest snowflake of a racing league ever video. I don't know if I've actually since lost the password to that all Twitter account, so I don't actually use it anymore. I don't even have access to it anymore. So I like how people went in and blocked that account, despite the fact that I don't even have access to it anymore. I've lost the password. I don't even use that account anymore. Just look at that account yourself, and you'll see that it's just dead. Like there's just nothing on it. Like if you want all of my stuff, on Twitter, just follow my main Twitter account. It's not that hard. And I think the best part about Jay is the fact that one of his many tweets where he showed my YouTube channel and my alternate Twitter account, he went as far as to pin one of those tweets. And I think it's just so sad that you're trying to take down me, a person who has already exposed you for being a snowflake. So it's like... So I guess another thing that's worth mentioning is that after all of the backlash that I received from my tweet, I decided to go on and write up an apology thread, really just apologizing that what I said was out of was a lack of knowledge and just pure ignorance, which it was. I decided to just finally just say something that I feel like was really worth saying after all of the arguments and stuff, and it was I felt the need to do it. And I don't know if some people have already forgiven me for the things that I have said. I think it still shows why you just can't change some people's minds, because even after that, some people still gave me grief after the apologies, so it was like, enough is enough then. You may have noticed that since gone in and protected my tweets, this is really just to prevent any more misconception, and I'm gonna be keeping it that way for a month. So I guess I should mention my plan is to keep my tweets protected for a month, and then and then by the time that October comes around, I'm going to unprotect my tweets and just see what happens from there. That being said, I've also considered, making accounts for other websites. Like, I thought about joining Instagram. I thought about just trying other social media websites, where I can actually have an opinion and not get shut down for it. And yeah. So as a result of all this, I now start to realize, why people deactivate on Twitter, or just, protect their tweet, or just generally just use Twitter less often, because the truth is that Twitter is kind of a horrible website, actually, especially with the people that are on the website. So if you yourself have thought about joining Twitter, maybe you want to rethink doing so after this video, because I feel like this video really describes, everything that is wrong with Twitter, why Twitter is bad, and consider rethinking it. Like, I myself, I'm never going to deactivate my account ever. I can tell you that much. I'm going to be on Twitter for a long time to come. I have considered just using the website less often, or, setting my account to protect my tweets and stuff, and, yeah. Anyway, that's all I really have to say for now. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in whatever I make next.